All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 113 of the Hideout, where we will be discussing all things Web3 gaming and the Metaverse. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders of Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment, the company behind it. We've been doing this Hideout Spaces for over 2 years now, every week, getting to meet with incredible founders throughout the space doing really great things. And yeah, it's always fun for me to hear about what everybody else is building and, tell people about what we're building. So with that, what we'll be doing today is we'll start with some introductions and then we will get into some questions. I know I think we've got everybody on stage, but we may be getting one or two more speakers up here. So while we do that, again, my name is Nick Frontera. I've been in the space for about 8 years now building. Before that, I was a lawyer in the entertainment industry. We've been building Satoshiverse since 2020 with what started as a comic collaboration with the infamous Jose Delbo, who was a Marvel and DC comic artist turned crypto artist at the age of 87, kind of was one of the leaders of the big Web3 NFT boom back in 2021. We worked together to create the Satoshi the Creator superhero and built a whole story and lore off of that with this dystopian universe where the DOF has taken over and is terrorizing the people. And then that leads us to our game, Legions 2029, which is a Web3 enabled, I guess fully blockchain enabled PC game that is free to play and combines elements of hack and slash games like God of War with a RPG progression loop that was inspired by Diablo. So if you want to check out a Web3 enabled game, we've got a couple initiatives that we're currently doing. I won't go too deep into detail just for the sake of time, but everything we've got going on is in that tweet that is at the top of the spaces and also pinned on our Twitter profile. I guess the important parts are it's free to play PC game. We've been developing it with about a 25-person team for the last 2.5 years. So really excited about taking it to market. It is a high fidelity, kind of more of a hardcore game. So if you're a gamer and you've got a gaming PC, check it out. Definitely excited to keep building that and expanding the Satoshiverse. So what we'll do is we'll call on you to give introductions. If you've got anything visual, please feel free to pin it to the top of the spaces, and then we'll jump into the questions. Why don't we start with our friends at T3 Play? Welcome to the spaces. Welcome back.
Yo, what's happening, man? Awesome to be here. Awesome to also meet you guys in person at East Denver not too long ago.
Yeah, definitely. That was awesome. Really cool to put a face to the PFP.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's like the smallest gaming area at a conference I've seen in a while, but there were some cool games there, some cool people we got to chat to. Had some good conversations with you guys, but yeah, a really quick intro onto who I am and what we're building. I'm Sean. I am the founder of T3 Play. We've also got Polygunners in the space, which is a game that we're working on. This is a community-focused game where it's a shooter game where every character in the game represents a community. We've so far onboarded about 70 partners. These are from tier 1 all the way to tier 3 communities, all active, and some really cool IP that we've integrated. So our goal is to keep onboarding communities, get as many people playing the game and sharing their own IP and brand. And we've got some really cool things coming in the near future.
Amazing. Well, I love it, and actually just invited them on stage if they want to come up as well. Totally up to you. But we'll dive in a little bit deeper. I know with the questions. Let's jump over to Mana. Welcome to the spaces, Mana.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect.
It's a
Happy to be there.
little choppy, but let's see if it improves.
Sure, I will try to change that during the space. Happy to be there. Happy to chat with all of you. Thanks for inviting us right there. So my name is Ilan. I'm the CEO of Mana for more than 2 years now, and we've basically been building one of the biggest Web3 gaming ecosystem, including all the community aspect. We have our own like gaming guild and Web3 community with more than 30,000 active community members in every single month. And we've been making Twitter spaces, gaming nights, and all this kind of community aspect for a while now. We've been building a community for more than 3 years with tons of partners and stuff. And instead of that, we also have our own marketing agency when we've been working with some of the biggest and world-renowned brand in Web2 and Web3 industry, including some names such as Michelin, Lingua Coins, GPT, Oxia Origin, Up.yz, and a ton of other names in the ecosystem. And we are basically providing a full range of like marketing and strategy scope for a wide of different kind of projects.
I love it. Well, that is an incredibly important role I think we have as we, spend a lot of time talking about how to reach the mainstream and changing the narrative and just all the things that we as developers need to do to be successful in building out Web3 games and as an industry as a whole. I think it's important because that's not necessarily intuitive to all game developers, especially newer developers that are in the space. So it's good to be able to lean on companies and projects like yours that can handle a lot of that for us. And I think that it's so important what you guys do in getting the word out about these projects for the industry as a whole. So looking forward to diving in a little bit deeper. Let's jump over to Saved Souls. And I think we have O Captain here. Welcome.
Yo, what's up, Nick? Pleasure to meet all of you wonderful people. Fantastic space. I'm really looking forward to it. My name's Captain. I also go by Dave, which is my doc's name. We started a project called Save Souls about 2 years ago, almost to the date, which is a gamified and narrative-driven experience that's telling the IP and the story, or excuse me, the story of our IP and how it kind of develops over the past 2 years. We've been building these browser-based games using our NFTs, and it's helped us kind of build the fundamental building blocks of what it meant to create the flagship product of what we are in the process of developing right now, which is our Shadow Souls game, which is a PvP Coliseum battler that has a very Pokemon-esque feel to it. It'll have full RPG mechanics and so on and so forth as we continue to scale it out over the course of the year. So pleasure to meet all you guys. Looking forward to this conversation, and thank you for having us.
Amazing. Well, I am definitely excited to dive in more. As a big fan of gaming, I'm always excited to see fun gaming projects in the space. So definitely, again, just a reminder, if you have visual content, feel free to put it up there. I'm always excited to see what visuals and if you have gameplay or anything like that, toss it up at the top of the spaces. All right, all right, we've got Polygunners up here. I know T3 gave a quick intro, but if you guys want to give a quick intro, you can as well.
Hey, it's Cece here behind the mic. Sean gave us a pretty good intro, so I don't think I need to repeat it, and I'm mindful of time, so we can get to the questions. But it's nice to meet everyone. It's Cece again. Hope everyone's doing well today.
Well, nice to hear from you too. Were you also at ETH Denver? I think I recognized the voice.
Yes, I sure was, and I was probably one of the few females at the gaming area besides Maud from BGA.
Well, I think we need a lot more of that. We definitely need to have females representing out there. It's always good to have you guys around and contributing and doing awesome stuff. So welcome to the spaces, and let's go over to Spencer on the Hideout account to take us into the questions.
Hello. What's going on, everyone? My name is Spencer. I am the BD manager here with Satoshiverse and Apollo Entertainment, and I am going to be asking the questions on today's space. So before we get into that, though, I have a couple of housekeeping items. So first thing I'm going to do is pin another tweet to the top of the space. So we do a giveaway on every one of our spaces here. We're giving away this week 5 Satoshi's Crystals, which is one of the main in-game resources within the Satoshiverse and Legion 2029. Necessary resource in order to upgrade all your your in-game assets. So something you definitely want. In order to enter the giveaway, all you have to do is repost that tweet that I just pinned to the top of the space that says we're live, and then just stick around until the end of the space, and then we'll choose a winner. So good luck to everyone on that. And then getting into the format of the space, we're going to start out with a group question. I'll call on to someone to start, and then feel free to, just jump into the conversation from there. No need to raise hands or anything like that. And then we will get into some individual questions for each of you guys. And then finally, if we have some more time at the end, we'll do some more group questions. So, without further ado, let's get into the questions. And then first question, maybe we can have T3 Play start us out on this one. The question is, why is true digital ownership an important step forward for the gaming industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's always a favorite question of mine. I think the main thing, the obvious thing really, is generally you don't get true ownership in Web2 games. There's a few outliers that kind of give you ownership. And what is true ownership, right? Like, it's where you actually own the asset and you can maybe trade that freely on a secondary market, or at least keep it for like future versions of the game. I think a big issue that people see with traditional games is maybe they spend a bunch of time playing a game, leveling up, earning a bunch of assets, and then a month later there's a huge update in the game. The game's no longer using those assets that you just grinded for. Web3 doesn't necessarily fix that, because the game still needs to have a use for those assets, right? Because we understand how NFTs work. You can use them for multiple things, and that's where interoperability comes in. So we're still relying on Web3 games. Let's say there is a big update, and maybe they don't use that asset that you own, or that specific asset that you own. Let's say it's a rifle or something like that. But in the new version of the game, you holding that NFT unlocks a skin or something else in the game. But yeah, I think that's kind of one thing that I think that Web3 is going to change for ownership. There's plenty of other things, so I'll let the other speakers touch on those. But that would be my angle, and I guess one way that we can help ownership with Web3.
Amazing. Who else wants to jump in? I'll go last on this one because I have a lot to say.
Yeah, I love absolutely what T3 just said. He actually echoed my sentiment almost entirely. I think the great thing about ownership is it allows you to really be more engaged in it, right? There's a more emotional connection that you start to create, because that is one of my least favorite things is, I don't want to throw any big billionaire gaming companies under the bus like EA. But you'll grind something for a good year, the next game will come out, and then it's completely null and void, and it's like, well, dude, I literally spent 20-30 hours trying to get this one thing done, and sure, I got an achievement for it, but it's that's it, right? And so for me, at least, from a personal opinion, I become less interested because I feel like my effort was for nothing at the end of the day. So when you give people ownership via the blockchain, whatever digital space it is, again, it creates that emotional connection, and that's what really is going to drive human behavior to continue to play and to help kind of push the brand in itself. So I think ownership's everything. It really does just expand the whole gaming forefront, what's possible and what's capable, and just in terms of human psychology.
Mana, do you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, pretty quick. No, I completely agree with what both people have said. In terms of the ownership, for me, it's also bringing a new layer into the gaming side of things, not only on the gaming side of things, but people and a lot of I'm part of the new generation. I'm 18 years old, so pretty young in the space. So I'm part of all this new Gen Z, new generation and stuff. And we really see gaming and digital aspect as our life. Like, some people have a real life and they have their digital life. So ownership allow to really be close with your digital life, with your gaming life and stuff like that. When, for example, we're talking about metaverse and stuff, this is allow you to really see the gaming or the digital side of things as a real part of your life. Why? Because you're owning things, because you have your own skins, because you can make trades, because you can use a marketplace, and you really are close to what you have in a life, because you have that in a digital and metaverse life, for example, as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what you just said, and coming from, a younger generation, I'm a little bit older, I'm 35, but for me, games and digital assets have also been a very big part of my upbringing and my life. And I like to think back to, the Pokemon cards I used to collect as a kid, or any kind of physical collectible that I used to play with, or that meant something to me. I think what really sold me, when I was working as an IP lawyer in the entertainment industry. What really sold me on the concept of NFTs back in 2018 was this idea that digital is just becoming more and more important in our lives, like you were saying. And the idea that we would be comfortable with buying and holding and using assets without that are important to us, right? That we attribute value to, but without any ownership rights. I mean, forget the possibilities, because the possibilities, like T3 was saying, are very interesting, right? The ability to transfer assets, to have third-party marketplaces, interoperability, and the things that could provide from like a persistence perspective for the assets. Put all that aside. If we're talking about at its core, just this is something that you have, that you think you have some ownership rights to, but in reality, legally and practically, you don't own anything in a Web2 game, right? And so all you have is this limited license to display it within a closed ecosystem, right? And maybe to transfer it, within a closed ecosystem. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about is tangibilizing digital assets through the blockchain. And by creating this token that is disassociated from the IP itself, right? Because you have the IP, which is just this thing that's, numbers and code on a computer, and it's a media file, right? But then you have this token that's stored on the blockchain and points to the IP most of the time. That token does so much to actually tangibilize something that used to only be IP, used to only be a license. Now it can be more than a license. Now there can be property rights that surround this digital thing, because before we may have thought there was a thing, but there's not. There wasn't. There's just this license, this right that you have to display it. But now there's actually a thing that's being stored on the blockchain. And yes, it's code, but it's code that is being stored in a way that is decentralized from the issuer of the actual IP. And so, when I think about, and I give this example so much, but hopefully there's enough new people on this space that it won't be tried out. But when I think about, if I'm a fan of, let's use a different one. If I'm a fan of Wonder Woman, and I go out and I go to a store and I buy a Wonder Woman hat and it's got the Wonder Woman logo on it, and I want to be able to walk around everywhere and have that Wonder Woman hat, and maybe if it's a collector's item, one day I want to sell it on eBay. That ability to do all those things with a physical Wonder Woman hat, to take it, to wear it, to go different places, and then to sell it one day if it has value, that's like a given. That's something that all of us in our generation take for granted. And I don't think, if we tried to switch that and say, no, actually, you can only use this hat in these places, and you can only, you can't sell it, and, if you do anything wrong, we're going to take the hat back. I don't think any of us would be willing to agree to purchase that hat in the physical world, because we take these property rights with physical assets for granted. But what I think digital lacks until now is this way of tangibilizing the asset. Once that digital asset has that tangibility, it's almost the same thing, right? It's another thing that has value that hopefully one day we'll be able to take to multiple places through interoperability, right? Through these metadata standards. And then that we will be able to buy and sell it one day. And it has, these tangibility principles of being a thing now. And I think that's significant. And I do believe that one day digital assets are going to be extremely important, probably a lot more important than they are now. And then with that, we're going to want these rights. And I hope that one day when the next generation, when you're 35, Mana, and we're talking to another 18-year-old, I think that generation is going to have rights to their digital property. And we're going to be talking about digital property in a much more tangible way. So that's my spiel. Anyone feel free to add on if you'd like. Or we could go to Spencer if not.
All right. Yeah, I'll take that silence as a cue to move us on to the individual questions here. So first one here is going to go to Sean. So as you were saying in the beginning, you brought a bunch of different IPs into your game. So what do you think are the biggest benefits and challenges of bringing multiple IPs together within a unified Web3 gaming ecosystem?
Yeah, I think for us, and just for some context, if anyone missed the intro, a huge focus for us is onboarding other IP from other communities into our game. So we've got over 70 now, and 50 of those have actually been integrated into the game. And so I guess I'll start with the stuff that we might struggle with. I don't know if it's a struggle, but definitely is something that we are working on, is probably the ability to onboard quickly, right? So it's taking around, for us, about 3 days, sometimes 4, to completely model and then integrate these characters from other communities into the game. So speed of integration would be one thing. It would be awesome to have that down to like a day. Part of that is budget, part of that is manpower. So I guess for us, it's good that we have the demand. We've got about 40 characters in a queue that we're waiting to get made and integrated. So that's a good thing, but that is one of the issues, I guess, is being able to get things pumped out quickly. AI is helping us. So we do have some pretty cool tech or unique tech uses where we can speed up that process. Another issue, I guess, which isn't a huge issue, is because we're integrating other IP. So every single character, as I mentioned, is like a PFP, or it's a mascot or a character that represents that community. And they send the details to us, and everyone wants their character to be represented well. So we do our best to design that character, model it so that it's recognizable as their IP, but it's also half our IP. So we have a very unique style. So some of these things are like unique to us, definitely. We want the character to look really good for every one of our partners, and we want them to be happy and proud of it so that they go showcase it and they create content with it and push that around Web3. So that's the goal for us. So getting that balance of creating the IP and I guess the minor details that a lot of projects are like, can you throw this in? Can you add this? And which is really good. But there is sort of restrictions because, as I mentioned, time is a factor, which time is money. So those would be some of the things. We haven't had any major issues, but those would be the things that's kind of slow us down, or that maybe is seen as a negative, but I think it's still a positive. The positives, though, are definitely that we get some really cool looking characters in our game. Nothing like what you've seen in any other Web3 game. I mean, I mentioned we got over 50 characters, and each one of them is very unique and recognizable as that community. So it's a really cool like mashup of IP that you get to see in this game in a very unique style. So the positive is that these communities and partners that we're onboarding, they become part of our marketing, right? They want to show off their character. They want their community to play the game, to get involved, to be pushing content for them. So really it's like a marketing exercise where these communities are trying to push their brand. which is pushing our brand and getting us exposure that we might not have otherwise seen. So I guess a lot of these communities and these integrations that we've got, once agreed upon anyway, are kind of like our KOLs or like that becomes like our marketing and their marketing too. So yeah, I think those would be some of the small downsides. But I think it's a really positive thing for us. We love it. We get to create partnerships, long-term partnerships too. None of this like, let's do a quick collab on Twitter. No, this is like a full-blown character in the game, that everyone gets to play or use for content. And, our goal is to work with these communities, keep onboarding hundreds of these communities, over time, and that everyone gets a win from it, right? both parties are benefiting from this.
Yeah, I just saw the posts at the top of the spaces. They definitely look great. And I think something that we preach on this spaces is just the importance of collaboration, especially within this niche that we're in, right? There's only so many warm bodies that are, playing Web3 games, consistently. And I think it's so important for the growth of the space that we see more of these initiatives, because without them, I think, the whole ship sinks, right? And we need the ship to rise before the tide can. And I think at some point we're going to be talking about Web3 as this really cool, thing that was back-ended into games 10 years ago. But for now, we still have to really pull together as a community. And so I love to see stuff like this. This is awesome. And it's a very cool initiative you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And really quickly, just to finish, this is enabled by Web3. Like, you would never see, and it's not that Web2 can't, it's just that they don't need to. But you would never see a Web2 game with like over 50 other like random entities that they add into their game at like no cost, basically. Like, we want to add value and to what everyone else is doing. And in return, we're hoping that, like I was saying, that becomes part of our marketing, and eventually long term, and we already have a lot of demand, there's just going to become more and more. And that's where the issue with being able to get these models out quickly, comes in. But that hopefully solves itself over time. So yeah, no, it's a pretty cool thing. And we're loving the fact that we have chosen to go down this road.
Yeah, super cool. Definitely.
All right, let's move on to the next individual question here, which is going to go to Save Souls. So how can blockchain technology enhance storytelling in games by allowing for player-driven narratives and decentralized world building? If you're speaking, I think you might be on mute. At least I'm not hearing anything on my end.
We may have lost Captain. I think he was the speaker there. Let me see. I don't see him in the audience, but all right. Why don't we, unless someone's there on the saved account, why don't we jump back to the next question and we'll see if we can get Captain back up here.
Cool. Sounds good. So yeah, the next one's going to go to Mana. So in today's Web3 gaming environment, what do you think are some of the most effective ways to market games and gaming ecosystems?
Yeah, thanks for the question. That is a really good point that all the games are related to marketing is a big part that most of the teams, I will not say have issue with, but this is maybe one of the biggest challenges, because most of the people or teams or builders in the Web3 are more on a technical and development level, meaning that they are really good in building games, building projects, bringing new features on the table, having like good ideas about how to make my game work, how to improve my game, how to take the feedback from the community and add new features and stuff like that. So that is really important, because project is the most important part in marketing. You can't make good marketing if you don't have a good product at all, or it will not be like sustainable. So one of the big issue that I see every single day by talking with hundreds and hundreds of funders and teams and projects and games is that development and project and the game is really an important part. But most of the team spend, I wouldn't say too much time or too much energy or too much money, but they do not enough focus on the marketing and the growth side of things, because what make your brand alive, what make you earn money at the end of the day is the marketing, is having users, is having some kind of growth, is having new users every single week, every single month, and having people making transaction or buying your game or playing your game or any kind of business model. This is not the question there. But the marketing part is really an important one that most of the brand have issue with. No, when we're talking about the marketing and growth side of things, there is many way to grow a project, to grow a game, attract users and stuff. The most important part is the narrative. Most of the project or game approach the market by not be 100% clear in their communication. What I call by that is that when I see a project launching, it makes feel that a lot of game are AAA game and project. What is not the case. There is only a few AAA game in Web3. There is even really not a lot. So need to be clear in communication, because if you approach the market like a AAA game and that you are a super casual game, you will not get the good fit. For example, I've tried myself off the grid. I'm clearly not the kind of player they are looking for. I've tried few times off the grid, but I really don't like the game itself. Like it's a really good one in terms of quality and stuff, but I clearly don't fit with their like target audience, because this is clearly not the kind of game I'm looking and I'm playing every single day. So it's about targeting the right people by having a super clear communication. And that's passed by your Twitter, by your Telegram, by your Discord. Hire the great team, the great partner, the great community manager and stuff. Making stream about your game. Like the first people that can promote your game is yourself. Play your game, talk with friends, show to people what your game is cool, and really build a cool game at the end of the day, because this is what people are looking for. And on the Web3 side of things, the most important as well is the money incentive. If there is no money incentive behind your game, and I'm not talking about making a random airdrop that everyone is doing in space, really think deeper about how can people be deeply included into your brand. Go look at what Pixelmons or Illuvium or Alphabot and all this like gamified platform or directly game have done. How do they gamifiate their experiences, and how do they bring players to be deeply involved and included into the brand and the product itself?
Absolutely. I mean, you touched on a few things there, and I mean, the challenge I think for a lot of projects at this point is resources. I think that there were, several projects that were well funded in back in 2021, where the VCs poured in money that have spent a ton of money on marketing. And I think the challenge right now, especially for some of the games you mentioned, like Illuvium, is that stickiness is very difficult with high fidelity gaming in Web3, just because there's such a small player pool that can even play these games, because you need the rigs. I don't think that's going to be the case forever, and I think right now hardcore gaming in Web3 is it's not necessarily the right time for it, but I think we are slowly and very gradually evolving in that direction, where you're going to see Web3 incorporated into hardcore gaming. And then but what you're saying is so important from a like, how do you actually think about sustainable growth, right? I think a lot of projects do these airdrop campaigns, and then they have people come in for a few weeks, and then those same people that came in are on to the next project when they do their airdrop campaign. So, depending on the type of game, there's certain games that are only meant to be played for a few weeks, and they get their $60 worth, and that's it. And that's more of the AAA side. But if you need something persistent, if you need something that's going to continue to evolve and really balance kind of the financial incentives that we can create through Web3 with the core products that we're building, I think you do need to really strategize about that. And like you said, communication is key, right? And so having the right people around you that can help with that communication is also very key. I think, you look at Pudgy Penguins and what they were able to do with their IP. I don't know that there's anything necessarily special about, the Penguin PFPs or the community itself or the fact that they're in Walmart, but the marketing and social media is probably the best marketing and social media that I've seen in the Web3 space. So much so that I would be willing to guess that the vast majority of their followers don't even know what an NFT is. And I would think that is an incredible feat that they've been able to pull off to establish an IP, grow an IP out of Web3 that becomes a mainstream brand. Now, does that mean that Pudgy Penguin NFTs should be worth $30,000? Probably not, right? Like that's not necessarily attached, but that's where I think you're saying, you have to have sustainable models for how, you can integrate value creation into whatever your token model is or your NFT or your ownership model. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
right.
think there's a lot there. It's hard. It's definitely, I think, hard to be a brand in the Web3 space and do marketing, and few do it very successfully. So definitely important.
Yeah, right. I mean, one of the main problems is, of course, the budget play a big role in that, but a lot of teams or projects are thinking that only by having a little budget, they can't really do marketing. Marketing is not only about spreading million into KOLs and stuff. Like a lot of indie studios are making amazing marketing and amazing go-to-market launch because it's all about the strategy. Like it's you launch a brand, that's it. So you need to think about a strategy. Yeah, if you have $1 million in marketing, then you can make a big campaign, hire the bigger marketing agency in the space and make like working with the big KOL and stuff like Off the Grid have done, for example. But if it's not the case, then you can just think about another kind of strategy. And this is the part that most of the project think that strategy is a little part of the puzzle, and they think that the biggest part is the execution side of things. And the execution side of things is, I wouldn't say the easy part. It's all about the strategy. How do you think to attract players? How do you catch the players? And it's about really going deeper into that than just making the high level side of things. So, yeah, I know that there is some project or funders there. My advice for you will be really think about, even if you don't have a big budget and stuff, this is not a problem. Think really deeply on the marketing level. How can you attract players and make them really interesting by your game? And if you even don't play your game on a daily basis, it means that there is a problem because your game need to be enough quality and cool that you yourself as a funder, even with your busy schedule, are playing your game every day.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Off the Grid's actually a really good example, like you were saying before, of a project that kind of followed the kind of the traditional Web3 quote unquote AAA path, and built a game that probably isn't special. I mean, no offense to Off the Grid, but it's a normal game. It's cool. I played it a little bit. It's still early, so we'll see if it develops into something really, really great. But they had every metric pointing for a couple of weeks that this was going to be the first big Web3 game. They had tons of players. They were number one, I think, on Steam or Epic Games. I'm forgetting. And it was this huge thing. And that was the marketing money, right? So marketing, I think, only goes so far. You do need something that's sticky. You do need an ecosystem. You need something that goes a little further than spending millions on marketing. I think some of these projects raise at, $300-400 million valuations, and then they raise $20-30 million, and they have more money than they know what to do with. And so they spend a lot of that money on marketing. And that's great. Again, the space needs those types of marketing initiatives from the well-funded projects. But I truly believe that the projects that are really going to emerge out of this space are going to just be really sticky concepts that use Web3 in a way to make the game experience more interesting for players. And like you said, you don't necessarily need a huge budget to market a game if it's the right type of game and you have the right core community.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for that one, guys. I guess before I move us along to the next group question, would confirm that O Captain is not back.
I,
All right,
I
sounds
don't see him. Yeah, and I didn't get any
okay,
requests.
cool.
So if he does come back, we'll get him back up here.
Cool. Sounds good. So the next group question, and maybe T3 play since last time I had actually I guess let's have Mana start on this one because we had you start on the group question last time, T3. So the group question is, many Web3 games today still require at least basic blockchain knowledge in order to play them. So what blockchain aspects of games do you think should be abstracted away in order to allow for better mainstream adoption?
Do you want to start on this one, Mana?
No, you can go ahead if you want.
All right, cool. Yeah, I can start on this one. That's fine. So I think that, and I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say on this one. But for me personally, I think that there's a couple big challenges. Obviously, wallet creation has always been a challenge, right? I think that the idea that you enter Web3 and now you're in the Wild West and you have private keys and there's definitely an appeal to self-custody and owning your own assets and everything that we've been talking through. But more and more we're seeing solutions that can at least make parts of that process easier. I think that's maybe the number one roadblock, or at least has been the number one roadblock over the years. I do think there's a bit of a trade-off with account abstraction, which is what kind of allows you to abstract away those private key type stuff. I think there's a bit of a trade-off between that and decentralization and security, but I think that's a needed trade-off if we're going to onboard Web3 users, and then there should be options for deeper integrations. But even as a person who has been in the space for 8 years, I'm still terrified to interact with Web3 applications because of the potential exploits, because you have to pay attention to every single transaction you're signing, because of the possibility that something could happen with a wallet. I mean, even the hardware, older ledgers now apparently are having issues with NFT transfers or no longer supporting certain things. So the hardware is changing with hardware wallets. So it really feels like every day there's like a new socially engineered scam or something that can make the security side of it a real challenge. I don't think gamers necessarily, because they want to own their items and play a game, want to deal with all that other stuff. So I think that's the account management side is very important, and wallet management. I think another one is the marketplace ecosystem. Game market or just NFT marketplaces in general are a nightmare, and the UI is super complex, and you've got to jump through 30 different hoops in order to list an item or buy an item. I think once you get used to it, it's fine. But I think for a casual gamer, they just want to click buttons. They don't want to be thinking about navigating to outside websites. And so you do have some solutions now for integrated marketplaces and different things that people are building. But the marketplace infrastructure sucks. And this is kind of like one of our big selling points, is that you can transfer your items. That's not exactly easy. I think beyond that, like there's just we almost just have to abstract away the narrative around the tech, right? We have this tech that we call NFTs and blockchain and all these different things. I think the reality is the more we can abstract away while still focusing on the value prop, the ownership element of Web3, that these assets are these tangible things that you can own as digital property. Once we can get that core system or that core belief integrated into people's minds, and people want it because it's giving them more rights, I think we can abstract away all the rest. It's something that we should be thinking about. Now, there are certain types of games, for example, casino games, where we should be abstracting away less, where, maybe, things like ZK proofs can be used for transparency in gambling games, that people can see, oh, this is actually, something that was fairly done, like where people who want to know, okay, is this slot machine rigged, or is it a fair, random number generator that's coming up with, the results every time? Maybe that's a place where blockchain can be used to improve certain things. Maybe not to be player facing, but just in general. Or, maybe with esports and gambling, blockchain can be used for tournament infrastructures with kind of a smart contract to custody the assets and distribute it to the players who win, things like that, where, of course, this is still abstracted away, but it's not like it's a substantive piece of value that the blockchain is bringing, that then you just, put fancy wrapping paper around it to not make it look like tech, just like you would, any other aspect of the game. So, I mean, I'm in the camp of, as long as we don't lose the core value proposition, which is the ownership aspect of blockchain, I think you can abstract away everything. T3, you want to jump back in on this one?
Yeah, sure. I think you made some really good points there. From our side, I mean, you've got to take into account who your initial user base or audience is. But either way, even if you are Web3 focused, let's say, no Web3 gamer is going to log in to a Web3 game that doesn't have Wallet Connect and like all these manual connections that would freak most people out. Like, let's say they log in and it's just Google sign up, and this is their first time playing. They enter the game, everything's like a Web2 game. They use email, or they use, let's say, Gmail or Facebook to log in. Now they're in, and let's say at worst, or not at worst, but maybe the bare minimum of Web3 that's in your face, or you can see straight away, is like a connect button in the top right corner. And pretty much everyone in Web3 is going to be like, I know what that's for. That's to connect my wallet. And no one's going to, well, I would say very few Web3 gamers are going to be like, oh, wow, this is boring. Like, where's the rest of the Web3 stuff that where's like the other potential, like, let's say, downsides? Like, where else can I connect my wallet? Where's the NFT section? Where's the token section? Like, all of these buzzwords or things or connections that we're so used to seeing in primitive stages of Web3 tech, no one's really going to be like, oh, there's not enough Web3 here for me. So I think as a bare minimum, no matter your audience, you want to have a super simple sign up. So like email or Gmail or Facebook, like a one click, you're in. And then from there, like, go hard. Like, you can hide the Web3 or you can put it in their face, but make it an option. Like, as I was saying, most native Web3 users are going to know what they're doing. They're going to know what, like, the potential security risks are. They're going to understand what an NFT is, a token is, a wallet connect. So all of those things kind of should be like an optional extra. And who knows, like Nick was saying, there is going to be games or uses where you want to be making sure everything's secure. You're kind of educating that user along the way of why it's so important. Whereas in a game, maybe you want it to be very free flowing. You're clicking buttons and you have no idea that there's actually a transaction going on in the background. Now that asset's in your wallet, whether you even have like custody of that wallet is not actually a huge deal. Like, yes, we talk about like making sure you secure your own assets and don't click on this or don't get your wallet drained. But if the wallet only interacts with the game, then the only risk should be inside the game, and that's on the developers, right, to build that game so that it is secure. In the same way that a bank needs to make sure that their website login portals are secure when you're transferring money. It's the same thing. We as the builders need to be responsible for making sure everything's secure. So if we can limit the amount of connections, the amount of, like, I guess, weak points, that's the main thing, I think. And yeah, as a bare minimum, I would say, like, just social's one-click login, and then from there, Wallet Connect and whatever else you need.
I totally agree. Anyone else have anything they want to add to this one? Otherwise, we'll start wrapping up.
Yeah, I mean, just to add quickly to what you guys are saying, because you're pretty much covering everything. The only things I have to say is that when you're building a Web3 game, you're not only playing against Web3 other game, you're playing against Web2 and the whole gaming industry and ecosystem. And we know that time attention in the actual society, in the whole world, is pretty super fast and super low, sorry. So when you add a layer like Web3 or any kind of like technological layer, you need to keep it simple, minimum as equal as a Web2 game, for example. So when we chat, for example, about the content creation and stuff, everyone have had like the YouTube short and the Instagram reel and stuff like that for like the really short and quick content. And right now every social platform is doing that. So you need to be on the next step and you need to start creating the next narrative and the next things that people are going to use. And when you add a layer like blockchain or Web3 technology to a game, you need to keep it minimum simple as a normal and traditional game. Because if people have to make some more effort or any kind of like superior effort to play the game, you will for sure lose a lot of the people right there.
100%. No, I totally agree. And I think that, there are finally solutions to do that. I think when we were building our game back in 2021, that was a huge challenge to keep the roadblocks and the barriers to entry as low as Web 2 gaming. And so we essentially built a Web 2 game that could be scaled up into a Web 3 game. But I think ultimately, now you have account abstraction. Now you have a lot of different aspects that can really help with that onboarding process. And I think that that's going to go a long way, not just to helping Web 3 games, integrate and attract Web 2 users, but I think and we didn't really talk about this today, but it's something that comes up a lot. I think one of the biggest goals for our industry shouldn't necessarily be, let's just enable Web 3 developers to create great Web 3 games. I think we need to be developing infrastructure and creating business incentives for major Web 2 developers to be thinking of Web 3 as a value add. And I think once we have, some of the greatest game developers at ETH Denver, met some of the guys from Ubisoft who are pushing their game forward, and they're really, excited about Web3 gaming despite all of its problems, right? And I think that as we start to see these friction points go away and abstraction becomes more of the norm, we're going to see the possibilities of major, AAA studios putting out big titles. And at the end of the day, that's what we also need as Web3 projects. We need to normalize the tech. It can't be this thing that we're sitting, in a corner. And then it's really going to come down to, does your game use the tech in an innovative way? Is the game itself innovative and fun to play? The things that make games successful normally. But it feels like we kind of have an even additional mountain that we need to climb as Web3 games. You can't just build a great game. It has to be a great game that also includes Web3 in a meaningful way. And doing that is still a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of space. Spencer, do you want to announce the winner and then we will wrap things up?
Yes. The winner this week of 5 Satoshis Crystals is Underworld or at Dogma Cats. Congratulations. Just send us a DM with your Satoshiverse username and we'll make sure to drop those into your account.
Congrats, Dogma Cats. It's awesome to see you win some more crystals. I know you will put them to good use. All right, so what we will do now is we'll do a quick 1 minute, 2 minute outro, let everyone know where to find you, what's going on our part. We are Satoshiverse and the Hideout. We do this every week, so if you enjoyed the content, we'll be back, same time next week, and we will be doing another episode. For those of you who want to get involved with Satoshiverse, check out the pinned tweet either to the spaces or on our profile. It's got everything you need to know about our Legions 2029 game, which is free to play. And in the next week or so, we will be announcing our Season 2 coming up. So if you are already playing, look forward to a couple big announcements coming. If you're not playing yet, now's the perfect time to create your account and start getting ready for our Season 2 leaderboard contest, which will have some great prizes. Lots of exciting things on the horizon. Let's go to T3 and then to Mana, and then I will wrap things up. Just let people know where to find you and what you got going on for the people who weren't here before.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having us on the space. First of many, I'm sure. We've got you guys coming on one of our spaces in a couple of weeks, I think. I'm about to jump off into that weekly space. So if you want to find out more about what we're building at T3 Play with Polygunners and all of our other things, I'd say have a look through our profile right here on Twitter. Just have a scroll through the feed. You'll see pretty quickly what we're doing. We've got a lot of stuff coming in the short term, a new game update, more partners. We've got new maps coming for the game, token coming as well. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you in the community and also being in some more spaces. If you're a project or if you're a founder that wants to get involved, just reach out. We love chatting with new people and bringing on new partners. Looking forward to long-term relationships and big year for gaming. So thanks again, and yeah, we'll talk to you all soon.
Amazing. Mana, do you want to close us out? Let us know where everyone can find you.
Sure. I appreciate that. No, it was a super great insight and space. Thanks all for joining us, and I really appreciate talking with you guys. Thanks again for this amazing space, and I will for sure follow the next weekly ones and jump on sometime when I'm free. For Mana, if you want to join the community, feel free to join our Discord. There is a tons of value and gift and cash prize we give every single month and every single week. We always get the best collabs, the best whitelist, the best game and everything. And for all the related business tools, feel free to go into our website. You can find the link in bio, in the Mana on my personal ELX and Web3 account. And then you can directly book a consultation and a free meeting with me, and would love to go deeper into your game, into your project, or even if you just want to network and make some good connection. It was a real pleasure to chat with you guys, and I wish you all an amazing day.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll wrap it up in about 30 seconds.
Huge thank you, Satoshiverse, for hosting this space, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Amazing. Sorry I left you out, Polygunners, but yeah, it's great to have you on as well. And yeah, excited to keep building with you guys and seeing where everything goes.
Honestly, no stress. Pretty much everything that I would think about would get spoken about by someone else in this space. So you've got some pretty intelligent people in here, and I'm just glad to have been part of it and listening.
I love it. Well, we would love to have you on again in the future.